To those of you all who are able to make it, and to those of you all who can join us from the live stream and were unfortunately unable to make it here tonight. Obviously, this wouldn't be possible without our sponsors tonight, so I would just like to say a special thank you to Homeland Furnishings, to Blue Waters Limited, Label House, Boomerang Cafe, Hadco Experiences, Kinesis Studios, and LaFast Motors. Just so that you all know, we'll be having a very special performance tonight as well to close the show. So we would like to ask everyone to please stick around after the show. And, we have, thanks to the support of Freetown Collective, they have something really amazing lined up for us as well. Just a few quick house notes. Books will be on sale, and Troy will be doing a sign-in once all of the proceedings are done. And corporate orders are also welcome tonight. Is that right, Troy? Corporate order, minimum of, big orders, big corporate orders, okay? So we are running a bit short on time. Troy did ask me to say a few words on his behalf before I introduce him. So, what to say? It's not, no, it's not a wedding, So, sorry I didn't introduce myself. My name is Dominic. I've been a long time friend of Troy, I hope. What can I say about Troy that nobody else doesn't know? Not much. Everybody knows the individual. He's an amazing guy. And I thought to myself, how could I introduce Troy in a way that, would be a bit more meaningful? So instead of, talking about his dashing good looks, his great sense of humor, I wanted to share an experience that is actually very close to our family's heart. And hopefully will add quite a lot to what this talk is going to be about tonight. So 3 weeks ago, my wife and I were very fortunate enough to have our second child. But it was a very traumatic birth. And what we found out at the birth, at the delivery itself, crazily enough, was that our son was born with a limb deficiency, which means he's missing his left arm completely. So that, as you all can imagine, as parents, during a delivery, we found out this news. No scans had picked it up. We were in complete shock. So, we were in this shock, and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna deal with this? Parents came, they said, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay, the usual. And then Troy came. And then we're like, Troy, this is what happened to Justice, his hand. And Troy was like, that's amazing. And I was like, not the trust me. The response was, my face was pretty much, he says, like, okay, Troy. But what he said was beautiful. At the end of the day, he said, look, that boy is going to be a gift to us, and he's going to teach us a lot about things like privilege, things that we take for granted. We're all lucky enough to be walking around blessed with our eyesight, blessed with sense of smell, blessed with all of our limbs, blessed with working brains, you know what I mean? And we take these things for granted every day. And he was like, Justice has come to us as a teacher to teach not only us as parents how to treat others more with respect, but also to help his cousins, his brothers, and the younger generation to grow up and understand what it's like to live with privilege, and how we need to live with each other as better people. And that was one of his points. And then the other, in that same breath, was he gave me a story about a friend of his who is a speaker who had lost both of his legs at the same time at 21 years old. And since that point, he's been able to achieve so much more because he is not bound by any limits in his mind and his brain. And because of that and that change in his perspective, he's been able to achieve so much. And for us as parents, that was really eye-opening. It was really, really amazing, and it has really helped to shift our perspective on how we intend to raise our family and how we intend to try to treat others, and a lot of that obviously had to do with our friend. So I know he was expecting me to come up here and roast him, but the truth is, Troy has been a great friend. He's a brother to us. He's very much a family member to us. We love him dearly. We wish him all the best in his endeavors. And I hope, that all of you will support him in everything that he's trying to bring, because I can guarantee you all it only adds value to your lives. So Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the host, Ardene Sirjoo, and the man of the moment, Troy Hadeed.
All right, thank you so much, Dominic. I appreciate that very much. I'm sure everyone here does, especially Troy. I think it's a very appropriate introduction as well. And good evening. It's great to be here. It's a privilege to have the opportunity to talk to Troy about his book and to do it with an audience, no less, at his book launch. So thank you very much, Troy.
A pleasure, Ardene. You rock. Ardene only I only met Ardene a few months ago, and
No, we met a few years ago.
Okay.
But no, we really only started vibes in a few months ago. And well, here we are.
Yeah.
So again, thank you. All right, so we're going to start this evening. Well, in sort of preparing for this and putting together the program, I had asked Troy if there was anyone in his life he felt he wanted to say a few words on his behalf, someone who knew him, a mentor, someone in that capacity. And he talked about one of his best and most influential teachers, Seane Corn. So we do have a video from Seane, who did this from California. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here with us in person, but we're happy to have her join those on the live stream as well. Good evening and welcome also. And yeah, we're happy to have her be part of the program. So Marcus, we'll go to that.
I remember Troy being here in California in Topanga Canyon in my home. And every day, instead of going down to the beach and going surfing or going up into the mountains and going hiking, he would head over to this little cafe down the block called Mimosa. And he would have his computer and his pen and a copy of his book at the time, and continuing to do his rewrites and his edits over and over and over again. And I saw the love and the dedication that he put into every single word, and that he was not willing to launch or release this book out into the world until he knew that it was reflective of what his main message is, and that message would be accessible, readable, enjoyable, and pertinent to anyone who picked up his book. I have one of the original copies before it became My Name is Love. This was just a copy that he gave to friends, to family, for people to read, to give feedback on. But I will treasure this for the rest of my life because it is a precursor into what was yet to come. And I'm so proud that I got to bear witness to the creative process, that this book is now out in the world, especially during the time that is so fraught with division and separation and ill will, and where the world is lacking compassion and empathy because we keep thinking we're separate. My Name is Love reminds us of the unity that exists, that separation is an illusion, and yet we all have work to do on ourselves so that we can show up and heal these divides and recognize the power and potential of this world when we understand and we live by the knowing that we are one and that we are love. So Troy, congratulations. Everyone, please go out and buy this book, read it, devour it, learn from it, use the lessons that are in it so that you can do your own inner work and discover how your own name is love and the impact that knowing will have as you move forward on your own journey. God bless you all. Mwah.
Great, wonderful. And thank you, Seane, if she happens to be tuning in to the live stream. Thank you for that message. And when I heard Seane's message, and of course on reflecting on the book, having read it, and the very title, My Name is Love, We're Not All That Different, you couldn't imagine that this would be the global context within which you would be releasing it, right?
Yeah, no way.
It seems kind of timely. I suppose it would always be timely. But how does that resonate for you now, hearing Seane's message and thinking of what's happening and what's been consuming so much of our energy and conversation lately?
Yeah, I believe that at the root of all that is misaligned in the world is what I would call an identity crisis. And it's a human identity crisis. And it happened from the day we're born, that I'm told I'm Troy and this is my body. And then from that day, my identity revolved around that. But that makes me separate. And I think when you look at what's happening in the world today, sure in Palestine and Gaza and Ukraine and Russia and everywhere in the world, there's a problem where we think we're different, we think we're separate, we think we're other, and we fail to dissolve those labels of our identity that make us separate. And in this book, to me, your name wasn't always My Name is Love. It was called Popcorn in My Pocket up to 6 months ago. And I was encouraged to change the title, and I'm so glad I did. Sometimes I could be a little stubborn. But, My Name is Love just rang true because it's at the very core, I think it's the only thing I truly can identify with.
And on that note, we'll get to the first reading. And just to give you an idea of how we'll be proceeding this evening, we'll have a few readings, some discussion, one more video, and then, as Dominic announced, a performance by Freetown Collective at the very end. So, of course, we start at the beginning. So the first reading comes from the first chapter of the book.
Yeah, it's called Redefining God. That's chapter 1. And I've been told I have to keep them to 3 to 4 minutes. So we're trying. I'm even wearing my glasses in public. On that forest mountainside, with no human in earshot, I was alone, or so I thought. But aside from the snakes, scorpions, monkeys, and local folklore spirits, there was something else I couldn't put my finger on. The sunset was spectacular, and the night sky moved in, the temperature fell, and a distinct shift in the symphony of sounds enveloped me. What was somewhat unfamiliar and uncomfortable became an absolute test of faith. That night, the light that hung above my hammock attracted these erratic, tornado-shaped flying insects that behaved like suicide bombers. They were everywhere and had one goal in mind, to take me out. I managed to climb out of my hammock to turn the light out and quickly jump back into my cocoon. I could feel the tension in my body and the shallowness of my heartbeat as my mind fabricated countless narratives about everything that could go wrong. I thought about my apartment only 30 minutes away in the suburbs and acknowledged there would be no shame in getting into my truck and heading for a world of comfort. However, I knew that was not an option because my mind might have rested easier, but my heart would have never let it go. Instead, I decided to call on God for backup, not as one would do in traditional prayer, but as an authentic heart-to-heart one might have with a teacher, a guardian, or even a lover. With my focus on God, one intimate breath after another, my mind began to settle. It wasn't long before my fear subsided and I slowly opened my eyes to a new reality. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, the star-scattered night sky revealed itself. And for the first time that night, I noticed moonlight glistening on the leaves of trees like diamonds. Giant-rooted soldiers were dancing in the wind, hundreds of feet above my head, and the nocturnal orchestra of animals played their tune with the magical twinkle of fireflies. Until that moment, I had been so focused on the threat of darkness that it was all I could experience. In reality, I was the threat. I was the outsider who viewed myself as separate from everything else around me. I had created a scenario where man and nature were battling for survival, rather than one in which I was part of the collective natural magic. A sense of awe and belonging came over every cell of my body. And at that moment, I bore witness to an intelligence that was in absolutely everything. the very same intelligence within me, the same intelligence I recognized as God. That night, God permeated every cell of my body and permanently moved from a concept in my mind to take up residence in my heart. That night, I felt God as a formless intelligence that was not governed by human ideas of separateness. In the simplest and most profound way, I discovered that God even lives in what might first appear as darkness. That was the night I felt God without any social or historical filters, boundaries, separation, or fears of judgment.
Thank you. You know, we could talk about why you chose to go to Paramin to live in a treehouse, which at that time was not intended to be a treehouse, but a shack is what you had intended to erect.
Evolved.
Yes, we can talk about what drove you to do that, but what I'm interested in is how at the start of the book, well, first of all, you make a point of starting the book with redefining God, by redefining God. And then you talk about God always being a part of your life, and that at some point you came to realize that you had to define him. You had to own that definition for yourself. What triggered or prompted that? How did you go from God being a part of your life in a conventional way that might have been taught to you through your family, school environment, to knowing that this was something you needed to claim yourself?
Yeah. First, I'll start by saying that I don't believe you can know something by being told of it. I can tell you of the taste of a fruit, but you can't know it unless you taste the fruit yourself. And I think in a lot of ways we're told about God, and we grow up in a society where we're told what God is, what God looks like, what God wants of us. But I feel that not often enough we're given a space where we can cultivate our own relationship to divinity, whether you want to call that God or something else. And I think from a really young age for me, it just didn't make sense because God was being put in a box. And the idea of divinity and separate and God was used in a way that created exclusivity rather than inclusivity. So I think for me, from a young age, that was just very evident. If you really stop to pay attention, because God didn't exist when we decided God existed. Divine intelligence existed long before we even acknowledged there was divine intelligence.
And when you say a very young age, what are we talking? How young?
I don't know, I can't remember.
Were you in secondary school?
Yeah, well, I remember there's a story in here about Pele. I think it's maybe what chapter is that? Chapter 12,
Later
11,
on.
12.
Yeah.
And I remember that night when I realized that I was not going to be a professional football player, that I was really determined and dedicated, but I just didn't really have the skill and the talent, you know. And I remember lying on in my bed that night, and I remember praying to God, and pretty much at 14 years old, telling him, yo, take my life. Give me a sense of purpose, you know. And I believe that God speaks to each one of us and every one of us. But I think that there's so much noise in our society and so much noise in the mind that we can't often just tune in to what we're being guided to do.
And you always felt like you had permission to question God, what he, it, she may be? Or you had to fight for that space?
No, I think I was always given that space. I think my family and my circles and my community always allowed me that freedom.
So this is not a coming of age story. You have been very emphatic that this is not a biography. This is not about your life. It's not even so much about your spiritual journey, but it's about your reflections on the spiritual path.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, why were you, I have been wondering, and you know, you and I have had some of these conversations offline, but why did you think it was important to put those reflections out into the world?
I think there's something happening in the world now, right? A lot of us we're talking about the right concepts and the right ideas, and we want to be better and do better and be better human beings. And we repost them on social media and we talk about them. But there's what appears to me to be some disconnect between what we know we should be doing and how we actually live our lives. And I think that, and I fell victim to it and still do, right? But I think there's something we do where we look at all the aspects of our lives where we're doing great things and we're showing up from a place of love and we're showing up in integrity and we're saying, look at what I'm doing. But what we're not doing is looking at all the areas of our lives where we can do better, where we can be better human beings. And I think I tell this story in a book as well, somewhere. But I remember our experience with, I was at a training with Seane Corn. And in a nutshell, she said something that made me feel, this is how it landed for me. I can tell you what it actually meant, what she actually said. What landed for me was that she was pointing a finger at me and saying, you are wrong with everything that's wrong in our world today. And I sat there and I was devastated because I was doing everything I knew to be the best human being I could possibly be, to show up from a place of more love, compassion, understanding every day. But what I wasn't realizing is I didn't have the courage, I wasn't looking at the places where I wasn't. Places where I could do better, places where I was unconsciously contributing to separation, division, otherness, separation, you know.
And do you feel like you address that sufficiently in the book? Like, do you feel you unveil a lot of that?
I think I can only tell my own story. I think it's up to the reader to either take that into their lives and those reflections into their lives or not. It might just be a cool book with cool stories, or it could actually be a book that moves and shifts perspectives within the reader, you know. It really depends where the reader is at for me.
So you would say, and we're talking a little bit more about the book as, let's say, a project right now, would you say that you're happy with, most people say no to this question, right? But do you feel like it really captures what you set out to do?
Yeah,
or to reveal?
With the work of amazing people, some of which are in this room somewhere. You know, I've learned through this process what it means to be an artist. And I tell Mohammed, I talk to Mohammed about that all the time, but I now understand what it means to pour all your heart and mind into something and not know. You don't know if financially it will be rewarded. You don't know if people will appreciate it. You don't know what their reaction will be. You don't know if it's going to land or how. And there were days, and there still are days where I pick up this book, I'm like, mediocre. And then the days when I pick it up and I read, I'm like, this is a really good book. But for me, I've come to a point where I realize that this is all of me. This is my offering to the world, at least right now. And I could stand by it, and people may connect it or not. But this is my offering, and I can stand by it with all my heart.
All right, I think it's a good time to get to our second reading. I know there's so much we would like to unpack with this book, and we don't have a whole lot of time, but thankfully you have a book tour kicking off on Saturday.
Book tour, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so if you want to ask more questions, if you want to learn more about the book, you can always follow Troy across Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
But Troy, we'll get
Right now it's really just north and 1 and 2 spots in the east and south.
Okay,
You get there.
Right. So we'll get to now your second reading, our gas station story.
Yeah. So this is from a chapter on narratives. I think it's called Narratives That Blind Us. Schooled in a gas station. I've always believed that some of our greatest teachers, appear to us in the most unexpected ways, especially when we are resistant to someone or something. The following story is a testimony to that. After refueling, I jumped back into my truck and eased straight ahead into the parking spot, outside the gas station's convenience store. While sitting in my truck, having a somewhat frustrating phone conversation, I saw a man approaching from my window from the rear of my vehicle. He had a limp and was rather shabby in appearance. From my past experiences at that gas station, I assumed he was coming to ask for money that would satisfy his habits. I felt that the least the man could do was wait for me to get off my phone and out of my car. I saw this scene as a threat to my personal space. Even though I saw it happening, I was in disbelief when the man reached my door and began knocking on my window. My instant response was irritation, and I quickly shot him a wide-eyed glance and drew his attention to the phone against my ear. As I turned my head from the window and returned to my already challenging conversation, I couldn't help but notice that he just continued to stand there. It wasn't long before he knocked on my window again, edging my frustration towards the realm of anger. I waved the man away aggressively while indicating that I had no cash. In response, he simply took a step back and looked at me with a gaze that bridged disappointment and fury. What confused me further was that it appeared he had the nerve to mirror my frustration. The man began to breathe deeply and calmly stood there with his eyes fixed, patiently waiting for me to get off my phone. Fortunately, the rest of my phone call was brief, and it wasn't long before I wound down my window and tried to muster as much compassion as I could before giving the man a piece of my mind. My brother, can't you see I was on the phone? Couldn't you have waited until I got out of my truck? I have no cash on me. I can't help you today. The man smiled softly with what I interpreted as an apologetic dip of his chin. In reality, though, he was simply allowing me the space to discharge my frustration before he pulled my head out of my ass. With a soft and caring tone, he replied, "Sir, I'm sorry that I interrupted your phone call, but I pulled up at the pump across from you and noticed that you left the pump nozzle up and the meter running on your credit card when you drove off. The next person who pulls up at that pump will be fueling the vehicle at your expense." Overcome with a weight of embarrassment, I took a moment before finding the courage to apologize and express my gratitude. What I probably should have done was hand the man my credit card along with the keys to my truck, because that lesson was worth more than either. That man was an embodiment of loving kindness, and I saw a threat. I had been so conditioned by my past experiences that I created a narrative which tainted my experience and blinded me to who he was. I saw a predator where there was a teacher, and I fabricated a confrontation where there was an offering of love.
I have to say, you've been doing really well with the reading. Yeah. Troy has come a long way, folks.
I did. I had a reading coach yesterday.
Well done. How do you feel reading that to the public? How, from when it actually happened, and I imagine you've retold this story countless times, and now you've put it out in the world, but how does it feel sharing it in this forum?
Yeah, I think sometimes we have an issue where we feel we're always supposed to have it figured out, and like we're not supposed to make mistakes or own or be accountable for our darkness and our shadow. And I think we have to change that, because if we make accountability, and there's a chapter on accountability in the book too, but if we make accountability inaccessible, then no one's going to want to be accountable. If every time someone says, "Oh, I made a mistake," we hang them on a noose, then who's going to want to own up to their mistakes and show their shadow and their flaws? But to me, by sharing stories like this, it gives others permission maybe to look at maybe where they are being governed by these narratives and all this conditioning and projecting on someone. And one of my favorite lines in the book, I actually can't remember, but it says something about we're not actually taking time to get to know and understand someone. We're just projecting narratives on each other.
You still didn't tell me how you feel.
I feel great. Yeah, I feel good.
So there's a lot of emphasis on this question of narratives. The question of privilege comes up. I know that you had a chapter on privileges,
Yeah.
and you were advised maybe not to leave that in
Yeah.
this edition, let's say,
Yeah.
of the book, or not this book, maybe another book, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But you have a preoccupation, I would say, with accountability and responsibility. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm going to have to bring up privilege a little bit because I think I come from privilege in so many ways. There's an aspect of being financially comfortable. There's an aspect of my skin color. There's an aspect of being straight. There's so many now being physically abled. There's so many privileges that I benefit from. The greatest privilege of all to me is that of love and security and safety. And growing up for me, even to this day, from my family, my friends, my social circles, I have always felt that endless, infinite support, love, safety, security, no matter what. So what I'm getting at is this. I think with privilege comes the responsibility. And I think that for me, that responsibility to do whatever I can to make the world a better place, to influence the world in a positive way. And even in a lot of ways to dissolve the things that gave me my privilege in the first place.
And when you say dissolve those things,
well, at least talk about them and address them. I think that's an ongoing process that will take a long time. And I'm still learning myself in a lot of ways about what that looks like and what that means. But growing up for me, and I've spoken about this before, I had a lot of shame and guilt around my privilege. And I think a lot of people do. But the thing about that is that if you're ashamed about your privilege, you can't own it. It owns you. And your privilege will only benefit you and your social circles. But if we, because we have to create a space in which it's more accessible for someone to own their privilege and say, all right, yes, I have these benefits, I have these advantages. Then we can use those advantages and that privilege to serve something greater than ourselves.
so is the book also aiming to have that conversation, which is not always an easy conversation, while creating the space, a safe space for the conversation?
I think removing that chapter from the book was a really good call. And I think it's really up to the reader about where privilege will come up a few times in the book, but I don't think it's an ongoing theme by any means. And I think it's presented in a very generalized way, more with regard to privilege of love and security, which we take for granted, by the way, in a big way. Because we always want people to show up in a certain way or show up from a place of love or act in a certain way. But and we always talk about love, but due to our conditioning, love means different things to all of us.
Which segues really well to this video that I know you want to play. Can you introduce it?
Yeah, I would love to introduce the video. It's a really powerful video to me. And most people would say, please don't show that tonight. But I'm going to show it. And if anything, it's only 3 minutes long, by the way. But if anything comes up, I just want you guys to feel it because it's so powerful and it says so much. Because a lot of the time we just assume that someone knows better. Someone can do better. And just having somebody to show you what is right and wrong and having somebody to show you how to cope in life is a privilege. And not everyone has that, you know? So sit tight. This guy has a lot to teach us in 3 minutes.
I remember my my stepfather, would beat me, and he would beat me with extension cords and hangers and, pieces of wood and all kinds of stuff. And, after every beating, he would tell me, it hurt me more than it hurt you. And, I only did it because I love you. It was kind of, it communicated the wrong message to me about what love was. So for many years, I thought that love was supposed to hurt. And I hurt everyone that I love. And I measured love by how much pain someone would take from me. And it wasn't until I came to prison in an environment that is devoid of love that I began to have some sort of understanding about what it actually was and was not. And I met someone, and she gave me my first real insight into what love was, because she saw past my conditions and the fact that I was in prison with a life sentence for murder. And not only for murder, but for doing the worst kind of murder that a man can do, murdering a woman and a child. And it was Agnes, the mother and grandmother of Patricia and Chris, the woman and child that I murdered, who gave me my best lesson about love, because by all rights, she should hate me. But she didn't. And over the course of time and through the journey that we took, that's been pretty amazing. She gave me love, and she taught me what it was.
All right, so sometimes it's important to sit with the feelings. Yeah. I think for most people it would be the first time you're seeing it. Troy, why this video?
Because it woke me up to a lot, and I think it's so important for us to understand that everyone is, I like to explain, like everyone is a seed of God with a bag of conditioning. And with all our conditioning from the day we're born, every experience from that day on, every conversation, everything shapes us and molds us into who we are. And if we can see past someone's conditioning, then we see God. You see divinity in each and every individual, every human being. And to me, if you can see past that conditioning and acknowledge someone's conditioning, then what we need to do is help each other reprogram and recondition. And the first step to doing that is making someone feel safe, secure, and seen and understood. And I think we need to stop identifying each other with our actions, words, and thoughts. I don't have to love or agree with or be aligned with your actions, words, and thoughts, but I can still love you. And in that, I can help you recondition, so maybe you can shift your actions, words, and thoughts to one that might be in alignment with the greater collective, be in service.
And love is the central focus of what you have offered up to the world here in this book. And it's only fitting that we get to the chapter that focuses explicitly, I would say, on that. And so I'm going to read, on the heels of what you've just said about love, I think a concept that may be very difficult for many to wrap their minds or our minds around. I'm going to read an excerpt that I'd like us to chat a bit about.
I have no idea what she's about to read, by the way. Go for it.
All right. In many cases, the very situations we would label as being devoid of love are filled with love. It is just a love that is selfish and self-serving. This is not to completely disregard the importance of self-love, which has become somewhat of a modern-day craze. There are many ways in which we must love ourselves so we can remain centered and grounded to love others. However, while loving oneself sounds exciting, and you can find individuals from all walks of life screaming the call of self-love, it's important not to get carried away. The ego is so sneaky that it sometimes uses self-love to deny responsibility, avoid accountability, and disguise our dissociation from the world. If we lose touch with the more significant idea of extending our love beyond our limited personal identity, then our love only serves our comforts and desires. We become unconsciously driven by a love that revolves around self-gratification and self-preservation. Many of us would probably be tempted to deny that this is love at all, but it is love. It's just a love that is limited and self-centered, which in a way harks back to what you were saying about before. I think it's just this idea of what love is, but I am curious about how you straddle the two ideas you're presenting alongside each other here to acknowledge that I think that for the most part, we think love is one thing, and it's this good thing that manifests in very positive ways. And when it does not manifest in positive ways, then it cannot be love. But you're saying something else here. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think love is like God. It exists everywhere, in everything. And I think a lot of times we look at situations and we say, this is love, this is not love. But I propose that we ask a question, what is being loved in this situation? Because if I look at a situation and I say it is devoid of love, then love is dead. It can no longer birth love, because I've said it's dead, it's devoid of love. But if I ask the question, what is being loved in this moment, then I might be able to identify, well, right now, my actions, words, and thoughts are loving my personal needs and desires, my wants. Maybe they're somewhat selfish. Maybe it's somewhat avoidance because I feel uncomfortable. But once we identify a situation and we could see that this love is self-serving, you even have a love of power, a love of greed, and a love of power over someone, right? They are, to me, what's happening in the world today. That's love. That's just a love of power. It's a love of identity. It's a love of oppression. It's a love of that sense of gratification. It's a very self-serving love. Even if that self is not me, but my collective identity, that my social circle, or my brand, or my whatever I identify with, it's still a self-serving love. And I think if we can identify situations where that love is self-serving or that love might not be aligned to greater good, then we can look at how maybe we can shift that love in another direction to serve something greater than ourselves.
So you're saying it's all love, but it's just skewed
Yeah.
based on probably our conditioning.
Yeah. And if we can identify where our love is misaligned, then we can now take that love and redirect it. But I think it's just a different perspective on looking at a situation rather than saying a situation is devoid of love.
And you talk a lot too about identity. You've already mentioned it a couple times this evening, and it's all throughout the book.
Yeah.
How important is that, losing that sense of identity, all the things, all the labels we put on ourselves that I suppose limit us in various ways? How important is losing that to experiencing what you may refer to as a more aligned kind of love?
I think it's essential, and I know what I'm about to say might may have resistance to, but there's a story, I won't tell you all story, it's too long, where an Indian saint tells his disciples, they ask him, well, how do we find God? And he says, meditate like Christ. And they run off with excitement. He gave us something to do. He told us what to do. And then they realize, well, how did Christ meditate? And they run back to him. And they ask him, well, Baba, how did Christ meditate? And he says, Christ lost himself in love. And I think that as long as we let go of this sense of individual identity, we're able to love unconditionally. But as long as I identify with this body, I'm always going to be in service to preserve this body and my sense of identity. And for a lot of us, our sense of identity might be an opinion. So because you have a different opinion and I have one opinion, all of a sudden we're on different teams and we're at war. You know, and I think it is so essential to look at the things we identify with. And I'm not saying they're bad, but we have to be in relationship to them so they don't have power over us. So we aren't a puppet to them. And just for record, one thing I said when I wanted to write this, when I started writing this book, was that my image would never be on the cover. And my editor, Anu, who's here somewhere, she still didn't think it was a good idea. But when I saw this image, it became very clear to me because I don't see an image of myself when I look at this picture. I think the photographer Laura Stevens, who hopefully is on the live stream, captured something that is in all of us. And it comes through when we are, you know, when in that moment we're just completely shed, we're completely stripped. And I remember once somebody told me, and they're in this room, told me, this picture doesn't look like the name of the book because this looks like the most powerful man in the room. This looks like a man that just went through war and has nothing to lose. And I paused for a moment and I realized he was actually right. And I'm not saying this man as me, as in whatever comes through me, right? But because when we get over ourselves and our sense of identity, we have nothing to lose. We have nothing to lose but to show up from a place of absolutely unconditional, unimaginable love. And I think that's what it takes.
And I would love to continue that discussion with you, but we do have to move on
Yeah, last
to
reading.
our last reading, our third reading, and it comes from the very last chapter.
Yeah. To read this or not to read, choosing what to read was so very hard. Anyway, comes from the last chapter. I won't tell you the name of it because that might give things away. I chose to fulfill my community hours at an orphanage. I loved kids and figured it would be fun, easy, and a solid contribution of my time. After checking in with administration, they directed me to wait in the playground and guided me through a doorway that transported me into a world of orchestrated chaos and excitement. There appeared to be hundreds of kids from ages 3 to 12 running, screaming, dodging balls, jumping rope, and wholly absorbed in the coordinated mayhem. The scene was intimidating, and I wasn't sure exactly how or where I would fit in. On the distant edge of the playground, I saw some swing sets that appeared relatively quiet and figured it would be a great place to start. I tried to make my way across the courtyard discreetly so as not to attract much attention or get run over by a stampede. That's when he spotted me, locked eyes, and ran full throttle in my direction. I was convinced this kid must have been running to someone behind me because I had never seen him before. And his excitement was palpable. I turned to look over my shoulder to confirm my suspicion, and that's when I felt this repeated tug on my jeans. He was fast. As I looked down, he stood there, bright-eyed with dark chocolate skin and a smile that could have easily wrapped around his skull. He must have been about 4 or 5, and his delight was infectious as he tugged at my pants while constantly jumping up and down. I smiled warmly, a little taken aback, and tried to find the right words to greet my new friend. That's when he confidently looked straight through me and asked, with a calm excitement, "Are you God?" I could feel my mouth open in an attempt to find words, but there were none. He stood there looking at me with a smile, awaiting my reply. I managed to get out, "No," but before I could even complete my statement of denial, he laughed over it as if dismissing my response. Then he ran off and disappeared into a sea of play. I looked everywhere for him during the following hours, but it was almost as if he had vanished, and I was left wondering if that interaction had ever really happened. I assumed he mistook my long-haired, bearded, hippie-looking appearance for what we know as a typical depiction of white Jesus. That was all it was, I thought to myself. For years, I never shared that story with anyone because not only did it seem outrageous, but the tiny part of my ego was caught up in it. I mean, it's not every day that you're asked if you're God. Over a decade passed before I shared that story with anyone. It wasn't that I intentionally avoided sharing it. I just quietly placed it in the closet of my mind and forgot it had ever happened. You know, like when you receive a gift from someone and you're not too sure what it is or how it works, you just smile, say thank you, and put it aside until you have time to figure it out. It wasn't until about 15 years later, when I sat down to write a social media post about God, that it came rushing back as if it were the day before. I remembered his eyes, smile, and piercing words. "Are you God?" I recalled his outrageous laughter of dismissal over my response, as if he had no interest in entertaining it. Then, of course, his disappearing act left no trace of his existence other than the magic dust he sprinkled at my feet. However, as I relived the experience this time, it was so clear. That little boy wasn't asking me, at least not with a genuine interest in my response. It was a reminder. He left me with a riddle and knew I would one day figure it out. He uttered three of the most powerful words I would ever hear, and while everyone might interpret those words differently, he was saying, "Wake up, brother. God lives in you. Rise to your potential. We have work to do." He came to remind me that I had to awaken to the God who lived within me before I could see God in everything and everyone else. While that little boy appeared to me many years ago with this message, it was also meant for you. That's precisely why you are holding this book right now.
So there are a couple things. One is that your stories about your interactions with children in the book are all my favorites. I don't know what it is that you have with children, and it seems Dominic and they have a sense of that, but there is something, there's some kind of connection there. The way the stories are written, at least the way they resonate with me, what is that connection that you think you have with children?
I don't know. I've never really been conscious of it, to be honest. I never realized how much stories there were about kids in this book until you brought it to my attention. But I think kids are some of our biggest teachers. And I think sometimes we dismiss what they have to say and what they have to offer. And if we pay attention, I think we might see there's a lot more there.
Who is this book for, Troy? I mean, we're getting down to the end, right? So I have to ask you some important questions before we get to Freetown. So I think that's a really important question because, you know, listening to you reading the book, one may think, well, you just have all your shit together, right? Because I think that's what happens when people read these things. They feel like, I don't think you're positioning yourself as a guru or anything.
Absolutely not. Never.
But I imagine there are things you're obviously still learning, even as you share your reflections. So tell us who this book is really intended for.
That's my least favorite question of all, to be honest. You learn that it's such an important question when you're writing a book or marketing a book or trying to get a publishing deal, and it's my least favorite because I want to say it's for everyone. But I think it's really for anyone who wants to be a better human being. Anybody who really wants to look at their lives and see where they can do better and where maybe they may be out of alignment or contributing to separation or otherness in some way. I think it's for that person. It's for a person who thinks they have it figured out and for a person who is still looking to be like, what do I have to learn? How can I be better? And sure, it's for everyone, right? It's also for everyone else. But here's the thing, is that somebody needs to be at a certain place in their life, I think, to really receive everything this book has to offer. And for somebody to be in that place, that's the questions I need to be asking is, how can I be a better human being? How can I serve something greater than myself?
And do you have any words for someone who may be a bit skeptical when they look at you, as you defined yourself earlier, by your various privileges? Do you feel like there may be some barriers to maybe more people accessing this book on the basis of their own biases or judgments?
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there anything you'd like to say to that person?
Well, to me, it's just about we have to look at all of our narratives and projections and all of our biases, and we all have them. We all have them. But if we can't get over that, then we're conditioned. We have been conditioned by our experiences and our past. And if we can let go of that to sit with someone and help see what is there, see who is underneath that, what is underneath that, and actually see the sparky seed of God that lies below someone's physical form, because we are not our physical form, in my opinion. We are so much more. So how dare we identify each other by that?
Okay, let's lighten it up a little bit. And let's talk about the process of writing and publishing. You're a new author.
First time.
New author. You started writing during the pandemic.
Yeah, just before it started.
So what was that process like for you? And then I'll tag on to that, the publishing process.
Yeah. Well, I tried to write this book many times, probably every year for the last decade or so. I was 21 when I said I would write a book one day. And I think for the last decade, every year I've attempted, and it just didn't feel right. And this time I sat, and it was like, I just knew this would be 4 hours every morning until this book was done.
Over what period of time?
This was about 3.5 years of the actual writing process, maybe 3 years. And then I thought the book was done several times, because I'm still learning, right? So I'm like, yay, book's done. And many people have read it in its stages. And you quickly learn that writing is rewriting. And then you meet a good editor, and you realize that what you thought was good was actually garbage. And it just takes a lot of work, and it's a very humbling process. I think it showed a lot of me to myself, because I would write something, and I know what I mean, and I know what I'm saying. But for me, one of the biggest lessons and tools was putting myself in the shoes of someone who doesn't know what Troy Hadeed is, has no idea what Troy Hadeed represents or talks about. And if they read this, would they still get what I wanted them to get? And for a long time, the answer was no. And I then had to go and rewrite and excavate my own ideas and opinions. And a lot of them have really evolved, from when I first started this book. So this process was as much for me as anyone else.
So tell us about the relationship with the editor.
Oh, is Anu here? Hi, Anu. So Anu's my latest editor. And, I worked with two main editors, Linda Sparrow in the beginning, and she was amazing. She's from New York. And more recently, I worked with Anu. And when I first sat down with Anu, she might shoot me for saying this, but when I first sat down with Anu was like, no. She looked at me and said, you need to be ready that you want to work with me because I'm a savage. And I knew that second, I was like, I knew Anu was the right editor for me because I knew I could be a little bit stubborn at times. And I think I still was in a lot of ways. And I just want to thank Anu because Anu, I think, has written this book just as much as I have and put as much into it as I have. And I don't think it would be the same book without her on it. So Anu, I want to say thank you. Yeah. Is this a good time? Yeah. And with that, thank you. We got a door prize from Aetherite Hadco Experiences for two day trips at Aetherite Nature Center, and I figured that there was no better person I wanted to give it to than Anu. So Anu, I'm really sorry, but you have to come up on stage now. No? No? Can I go over there? Will
Sure,
my mic
please.
freak out?
I mean, one way or the other, you're going to embarrass her.
Okay.
Thank you, Anu. You're lucky you're being hidden by this lovely man in front of you. All right.
Do you have time for one more thing?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, I just want to say, guys, that I don't believe anyone does anything alone. And I think every interaction you have with an individual, be it an absolute stranger or someone who's continuously in your life, it changes who you are. It is impossible for any one of us to leave this room as you've seen people that walked into this room, because we've had our exchange. And every interaction we have from this point on, I will live in your exchanges with others and you will live in mine. And what I want to say is that I'm really grateful. I don't believe I wrote this book because I was conditioned by experiences and my circles and my friends and the people I encounter every single day who make me who I am, much like we all do. But I don't believe we as individuals, can really do anything alone. The I actually does nothing because it actually doesn't exist. I am a product of my environment, and you guys are my environment. So I didn't actually write this book. We wrote this book. So thank you.
And did you just want to touch on the publishing
Oh,
experience?
yeah, sure. So, there was a big choice to be made between do you self-publish or do you look for a traditional publishing deal? And I think I quickly learned, and I'm still learning, right? I'm such a baby in the literary scene. But it was a big decision for me because I've always bought into this idea of a publishing deal and being a big author and that whole jazz. And I also want to thank Ira Matura, who's here, and Amanda Smythe, who hopefully is online, because they also have been so influential in making this book what it is. And I remember Ira encouraging me to self-publish. I did go out to publishers probably for about a year. That's before the book was really as good as it is now, and I think my proposal was soft. But the biggest thing was that the reply kept coming back. We love your book, but your social media following isn't big enough. And it's just unfortunate that it's come to that. While I understand it's a business, but so I ended up going the self-publishing route, and I am so happy that I did.
And you did it locally?
Yeah, well, I formed a self-publishing imprint called Batula Publishing in Barbados. And so I publish under that imprint, and all books from here on will be published under that imprint.
So this is not the last of Troy Hadeed, the author?
No, it is not. And I also want to say, I was, in many ways, I would mention this in the back, we as Trinidadians have this underlying concept where everything foreign is better. I had that. And I remember having a convo with Anu, and I was telling Anu, I don't want to print locally. There's no way I'm printing locally. And there was a point where I wasn't interested in working with local editors or local designers. And I was quickly realized how wrong I was, how absolutely wrong I was, that we have editors and writers and printers and publishers in this country that warrant international standards and need to be given their account, you know. Yeah. Now, I must say with that, the cover designer is a lady called Laura Duffy. She's in the US only because local designers, we're a little tied up and we're on a timeline. The photographer is also a lady from the UK, Laura Stevens, who's amazing. But that doesn't take anything away from what is locally offered. And had I had more time, I would have loved to explore that even more.
Well, Troy, I think that brings us to the end. I mean, we do look forward to what more you have to produce. I think you've set yourself up to deliver something of substance, if not equal, greater than what you've already given us. And I personally look forward to it, and I'm sure many people will.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
And on that note, we want to open up the floor for a very quick Q&A. We don't have too much time before our Freetown performance. So if anyone has any questions, we can probably take this mic around.
Do we have a mic? Yeah, have a mic.
Well, I don't know if you want to come to the front. That may not be convenient.
Alice,
There's a question.
Hi. Yeah, well, first I want to say thank you so much, Alice, because sometimes you forget people. And Paria Publishing and Jerry Bethel was so influential in me writing this book. And I remember I was maybe 22 when Jerry Bethel saw me in Art Evans one day, and he just stopped me because I was friends with his son. And he said, you know, you're going to write books one day. And I said, really? He said, yeah, like Paulo Coelho. I was like, really? So I don't know if we're there yet. We're not there yet. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge Paria and Uncle Jerry. And to answer your question, yeah, Popcorn in My Pocket was catchy, and it meant a lot to me. But it didn't really, I realized, you know, and I remember in the very first online literary course I did, which was Lucinda Literary, give them a plug too. She told me, that's actually a terrible name. And I was like, what? I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. But you know, as you learn and you're schooled and you realize that you don't really know anything, you kind of realize that Popcorn in My Pocket really doesn't tell much about what a book is about. Like, you guys know about it because you know me. But one thing I was set out to do is write a book that wasn't just for Trinidad, that was a book for the world, you know. And I realized that Popcorn in My Pocket could not fly. And I think we went through brainstorming for a little bit, trying to find a new title, and we threw around a lot. But I think My Name is Love is just what felt right, simply because this book is about dissolving our attachment to our identity, whether that identity be our opinion or our perspectives or our ideologies or our sense of being right. In so many ways, that's what this is. And I realized that in order to love, in order to really love, we have to be able to dissolve our sense of identity, no matter what that is. So I felt like identifying with love was just, it just felt right to me. And it felt like it spoke more to what the book was about. Yeah, thank you, Alice.
Any more questions?
No?
Have you all read the book? It's fine. We know you will.
Yeah.
No?
Okay?
Really, Troy?
I don't know. I
I'm
don't know
shocked.
if people are shy or what, or
No hard questions for Troy?
You stole my question, which was, who is this book for?
I'm so
Got it.
sorry.
Let me just interject very quickly before we go to any other questions. PCU 591, your alarm is going off.
yeah.
All right, so if we don't have any more questions, Troy, I will invite you to introduce our guest performers.
Wow.
This
Well,
evening?
they are close. They're just behind there, and I'm going to invite you all not to get up because we're trying to make it real quick. They only have 15 minutes. But Freetown Collective, to me, has always been, I don't think they're acknowledged enough in Trinidad. And I think they're now known for soca music in a lot of ways, and I think they bring so much more to the table. And I was once said that the approach to book launch should be to have people feel something. And there's no other band or musicians that I feel can make people feel the way Freetown makes people feel. And they've been very close to me, and I love them dearly. And I figured I would be more than honored to share them with you guys.
All right. So we're handing over.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me see what this store is about. I walked in there and I bought a shirt that said, listen to Bob Marley, right? It was a plain, it was navy blue shirt with white lettering on it. And I went in the mosque with this shirt that said, listen to Bob Marley. And I didn't know it was going to cause us an uproar, right? But I guess, yeah. And since then, Troy has been a brother, a friend, a guide, always willing to help, always there, and always willing to have the difficult discussions. Because we come from different ends of the spectrum in some way. You know? As I look around the room, it have a lot of different ends of the spectrum. And I think one of the opportunities we have through Troy is to be honest with each other now, boy. That shit not easy. But it's a start. I like the start. And if we really name love, we go reach somewhere, right? This is my family, eh? We did a real fight. But we love each other still. In the midday heat, Lord, I need to cool my head. They calling it a brave new world, freedom for brave new boys and girls. What good is freedom if you're dead? I don't mean the literal sense. Death itself is a consequence, but Bodies for sale and souls for rent. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They say we can't write no love songs. We live fast and we die young. They say we doomed to fail, 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 fail. They say we doomed to fail. They say we prone to violence, violence. And a sinking silence. They don't know what they say. No, 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 no. This generation, man, we on a mission. Our whole world to change.
Yeah. See, I was born in the 80s, so they hate me. I'm the reflection of everything you don't see.
My freedom came with a price.
In this fight, I'm here with my life. PlayStations have no value. Boys nowadays don't argue and tempers flare. They don't fight.
Bullets do the talking,
dead men walking. This madness not so new. Our fingers point back at you. Descendants of World War II. Our love songs are never in tune.
They say we can't write no love songs.
So we write just to write what they did wrong. Rebellious, arrogant, headstrong. Your perception of me is just dead wrong.
Smart bombs and nuclear warfare, treaties and sanction torture. They're telling lies, but they're not fooling us. No, 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 no. Dead valley, who can live here but the demons and the vultures? Children, it's time for an exodus. Oh, to the dust, yeah. They say we can't write no love songs. When your war done, I go write one. They say we doomed to fail, fail, fail.
Say we doomed to fail.
They say we prone to violence,
Violence.
and a sinking silence. They don't know. This generation, man, we on a mission. Our whole world to change. Our whole world to change.
Whole world to change.
Our whole world to change.
Whole world to change.
Our whole world to change. Our whole world to change.
Whole world to change.
Our whole world to change.
Whole world to change.
Our whole world to change. Whole world to change. We would have written that song about 13 years ago now. And that song has never meant so much as it just meant. I haven't sung it since this madness started. Yeah. Since the madness started back. One of my favorite authors, James Baldwin, says that, paraphrasing, you think that because I am in a position of danger, my poverty, all of that, that you are in a better position, and you compare yourself and you think that that makes you safe. But my danger is your danger. So nobody's safe until everybody's safe. In the last 10 years, I have lost my father, my uncle, and my brother to gun violence. And then when he hit me when I lost my father, I was like, wait, I am now a statistic. I am someone who has suffered from this in that way. We ain't gonna fix it unless we face some real hard truths. And we will. And you might have a lot of millionaires where you come from. Some of you. Not where I come from. There are no millionaires where we come from. But in the jungle build a humble kingdom. Silver and gold never buy our soul. We're rich and we heart, yes. We're rich and we heart. And who don't like that? Action over chat. Cause we don't fight fire with fire. Only love can bring the love back. And who don't like that? Action over chat. Cause we don't fight fire with fire. Only love can bring the love back. Yeah.
Only monsters roll with the team and everybody fully dance. Kill man and woman and child and dog. Anything move gets slugged. Say they hard cold with the ice king. Anytime they say you have a nice thing, contract killer them. Come with the pricing, knife for the slicing. Things get frightening. I don't know what
Go to the head,
army full of
walking dead.
ready to go to war for the bread. Don't cry, pray to
God instead.
There are no millionaires where we come from.
Come from.
But in the jungle build a humble kingdom.
Kingdom.
Silver and gold never buy a soul. We rich and we heart things. We rich and we heart.
Bad man say them rise the machine and kill everybody that pass.
Change like the weather, brother kill brother. The thing get dark. When I think how far we come from the place where we start, all the pressure that make me Lord, I sit down and laugh. A bullet, no one word. Kill, kill, kill. Blood starts spurt, street get filled. Who run the world? Is this your will? I will keep my word right until I see your face again. I see your face again,
in the middle of corrupted people that coming in a unmarked vehicle. That tell me turn away from evil. Bills you and my pocket still feeble.
A bread would have baked, but the flour full of weevil. Hungry to kill, belly thin like a needle. Love over all, still fire for the evil. Under stress, we don't distress people.
No, don't you think that I don't try? It's hard to see my way sometimes.
Cause even when the road get dark, we lose friends and gunshots back. Hey, I say we rich and we heart. Yeah, we rich and we heart. Say we rich and we heart. Yeah, we rich and we heart.
That's where we come from. But in the jungle, we build humble kingdom. Silver and gold never buy our soul.
We're rich and we are, yeah.
We're rich and we are. Silver and gold never buy our soul.
We're rich and we are, yeah. We're rich and we are. When I was at UE, I remember being in a class and they were teaching about this thing called existentialism. And it was a class of very young people. And the way that the lecturer was lecturing, it was almost as this was life, right? Like existentialism, you know. I was like, them people went through things and responded in a certain type of way. We went through things and responded in a different way. We didn't really have no time to despair. We hold on to God real tight. We hold on to love real tight. You know? So this song is to the people who hold on to God real tight. Who hold on to love real tight regardless of what. Troy, it is you. Sarah, it is you. Taylor, it is you. Gregory, it is you. Aruna, it is you. My big roots yard. Yeah. Yeah, na 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 na. Whoa, ba 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 ba. Whoa, ba 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 ba. Yeah. See when the valley couldn't hold me, they throw me in the river, thinking I would drown, but alright. I just checking the water now. And when the river didn't drown me, they throw me in the fire, but the fire just cool. I could never burn. Okay. No. Yeah. Cause I'm a believer. I'm a believer. Yes. I'm a believer. Hey. I'm a believer. Hey. I think this song.
When the valley couldn't hold me,
When the valley couldn't hold me now,
they throw me in the river.
what's
And
now?
when the river didn't drown me, they throw me in the fire, but the fire just.
Fire just what?
And when the river didn't drown me, they throw me in the fire, but the fire just.
Shadrach, drop me, shall can I beg you?
Oh, when the river didn't throw me in the fire, but the fire just.
Freetown is my family, whole Caribbean follow me. Roots deeper than forestry, evergreen like the forest be. Terrible them can't manage me. Africa no apology, Africa no apology, hey. Freetown is my family, whole Caribbean follow we. Roots deeper than forestry, evergreen like the forest be. Terrible them can't manage me. Africa no apology, Africa no apology, hey.
Africa no apology.
I'm a believer. Oh, you never do that before? Serious? It felt new. If you knew I like because we break down, you know, I guess it's been like that. Could y'all please just put your hands together for them? As men, we learn a lot through them. We get real flat because sometimes we think and we don't think with them in mind, and they still here and bearing with me and forgiving us and moving through, and they have made us in many ways who we are. Our sound, they are part of it. They are us. Would you all like me to introduce you to them? Everybody knows this. We have a +1 on the team. A +2. This is Shana. Everybody say good night, Shana. Anytime you're ready, Shana.
When the valley couldn't hold me, they threw me in the river. Thinking I went wrong, but man, a good man, a good man, a good man, a good man, a good. Swim away.
Hey.
When the river didn't throw me, they threw me in the fire. The fire just
Hey. In the middle we have top part of the harmony. So everybody say that's not the middle of us. Sorry. Was she in the middle or yeah? Okay. We will get to heat. We'll get to heat. So everybody say good night, Malini. Good night, Malini. Anytime you're ready.
when the valley couldn't hold me, they throw me in the river. Thinking I would drown, but man, a good swimmer. Oh, yeah. And when the river didn't drown me, they threw me in the fire, but the fire just cool. I see the fire just cool. I see the fire just cool.
My team are real bad, you know. I don't know about all here, you know, but I sure about that. And in the middle we have. In the middle again. Well, I correct myself now, you tell me. She not in the middle, so now we in the middle, right? I confused you. This is Tashana. Everybody say good night, Tashana. Tashana is the unpredictable part of the sauce. So, everybody laugh like, oh, you know Tashana, but. Well, then say no more. Are you ready? Say no more.
When the valley couldn't hold me, they throw me in the river. Thinking I was drunk, but woman, I said woman, a woman, a woman, a woman, a woman, a woman. But when the river didn't drown me, they throw me in the fire, but the fire just cool. I said the fire just cool.
Easy. contribute, right?
I trust.
Yeah, na 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 na. Whoa, ba 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 bye. Whoa, ba 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 bye. Ba ba bye. Every once in a while, you do something that changes your life for the better. And most of the time when you do that, it's out of a place of love. And a lot of times out of a place of love that even you don't understand where it's coming from. So, when I wrote this song in 2020, well, 2018, when we released this song in 2020, we really didn't have any idea how it would have swept through the place. But this song made me believe even in my own people again. Because for a long time I thought we only wanted one specific thing from Carnival. And from ourselves, if I'm being honest. Because if you listen to the music, you might just think we either killing each other or no babies in the room. We either killing each other or we fucking each other. That is what the music telling us. But we're doing a lot more than that. You know what I mean? So anywhere you come from, coulda up, you coulda down, blessing. May your heart find peace, that's it. May your heart find peace. May your heart find peace, baby. May your heart find peace. May your heart find peace, that's it. May your heart find peace. May your heart, may your heart, may your heart, may your heart find peace. This city can't hold me. My vibe's too high, and my heart it told me jump right now. You will touch the sky. Feel my love unfolding like a laughing flame. All who did not know me when I'm done, they gon' know the name. A million people coming down, dancing to this song. Ooh, joy. Hey. Love is life and life is love. Blessings from above. Ooh. Well, you can feel free to sing over if you want. Say, can you feel the love that's in the air? Dancing, moving, grooving, dancing, moving everywhere. If you feel it, let me hear you say, oh mama, hey mama, hey na 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 na, hey na 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 na. Take me to the river, take me to the sea, wash over me music, bathe me in your melody. We are such a blessed tribe, sweeter than a million bees. People live 1,000 lives and never feel this free. Oh, dancing to this song. Love is life and life is love. Blessings from above. Lift your voices. Can you feel the love that's in the air? Well, if you feel it, let me hear you say, dancing, moving, moving everywhere. If you feel it, let me hear you say, na 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 na, yeah, 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 na 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 na. You know one of the very beautiful things about being of mixed heritage? Only when you create, right? All of a sudden your ancestors just be like, I want to be on this song. So you go in down a part. They just call it prakash. Because as we going, and then that energy just come up too. So like the chorus of this song, I didn't have a chorus. And I get to this part and I was like, hey, hey, na 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 na, hey, hey, na. So I thank my grandfather for the vibes of it. Can you feel the love that's in the air? Dancing, moving, grooving, dancing, moving, moving everywhere. If you feel it, let me hear you say na 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 na. Oh yes, cross the water, cross the sea, sing with me. I'll give you all a little story about this song, right? Because it's a testimony to love. Me and this brother here decided we're gonna make music. We had written all of 2 songs. And he had a little white Mac laptop, remember when the white Mac laptops? And a program called GarageBand, and the screen was cracked. And we was like, we're gonna make the best album anybody ever hear in life. And we probably gonna do it tonight. After about 3 or 4 hours of trying, I rocked back on a couch, he sat down and he started playing this. Because it wasn't working out obvious. And this is the song that came out of that. Rough out here. Ask the garbage man. People throw away things that he never had. The security guard also, I suppose, protecting riches that you'll never ever own. What about the people working in the bank? Broke all day with all that money in your hands. Honest people working hard, trying to make some sense in a world gone mad. Hear me now. Honest people working hard, trying to make some sense of a world gone mad. Bless them, Father. I say bless them all, yeah. Keep their spirits high, don't let them fall, fall, fall. Bless them, Father, bless everyone, yeah. From the time our day starts till our days are done. Everybody could do something. Nobody is nobody. And nothing don't exist. Hard to live. Ask these soldiers at war. Hard to live. Ask these soldiers at war. You could lose your life and not know what for. Even harder, ask their wives. Your loved one gone in the blink of an eye. So at night, when you put the children to sleep, kiss their foreheads and pray for better dreams. Hear me now. So at night, when you put the children to sleep, I say bless them all, yeah. Keep the children safe, hey Lord. Bless them, Father, wherever they are now. From the time their day starts till their days are done. As we sit here in safety, there are people being relentlessly bombed. There are people being brutally murdered for simply existing. Remember that. As you eat, always there are people who are hungry. Remember that. It's a part of your humanity. Rough out here. When the madness starts, you see, you could lose your mind trying to protect your heart. It's not easy when you're born with light. But just remember, never give up your fight. Keep on struggling on, push on through. No man can take what was meant for you. Do you hear me now? Keep on struggling on, Papa, push on through. No man can take what was meant for you. And bless us, Father. Bless us, Father. Keep our spirits high. Don't let us fall. Bless them, Father. Bless everyone. From the time our day starts till our day. Oh Lord. But Mali say, if you don't fight with Rasta, you gotta fight again. I think what he was trying to say deeper than that is if you don't fight with love, you gotta fight again. And again. And again. Be at peace, right? About 13 years ago, 14 years ago, I had a crazy idea in my head that I could sing, and that I could write, and that I could mean something to my people, to my nation, that I could add something to our history, that I could do something. And God said, well, you can't do that by yourself. You cannot. Send this one in. Right? Please put your hands together for Mr. Lulai. And the father say, all you do not right, you know. But you're not a woman, but you're forgetting that. Send these three. Please put your hands together. And then God say, well, they're going good enough, but sometimes I feel like, well, they don't know where they're from, but like, nothing, well, they need to put a little wine in anything, and he send walkers. And I'm saying that to say that the fact that all of you all know who Freetown is now, it means a lot to us, but more so it is a testament to what is possible when we work together for something. Because if it was just me, I don't think. If it was just him, I don't know. But together, loving each other and loving what we do, we're able to cross borders, enter into people's hearts and sit down in their hearts and just whisper something to them. And together we can do that. Apart, we don't really work that much, you know. Apart. You know, together, that's how much. Thank you very much.